Set 13 is finally coming out in Japan tomorrow, and of course the set list has finally dropped. We now know all the cards, and it's time to do our usual first impressions of the expansion right before the release. And of course, some of these impressions might change with time. They might get better, they might get worse. I might be wrong completely on some of them, might be completely mispredicting, but I think overall the good cards are pretty obvious in this set. It's more so the not so good cards that are a bit questionable and not as clear this time around, I would say. But let's just get into it and talk about everything in this expansion, in set 13, the big anime climax set for Wildress. Here we go. So we're gonna break it down into the nations as usual, but just before we get into it, there is a nationless deck we have to talk about, which isn't distributable otherwise, unfortunately, which is of course at the very bottom of all the high rarities and everything, which is Grifogira. So I'm pretty sure Grifogira only has 2 cards in this whole thing, so we'll just talk about them. It is the grade 11 18k power itself. When you ride it, you put the token into the order zone, which we'll talk about in a second, and during your turn he gets plus 10k in a crit, and of course he also, as long as you have 10 or more, total Hydra Grooms or Dragon Tree markers, he gets plus 10k on both players' turns, so 28k is like, not bad. 38k with a crit that's just like there all the time. You do have to ride it from hand though, after bringing out Grifogira. So you do have to ride it from hand. And when he attacks the Vanguard, you get rid of like the Calamity cards from your order zone, from your ride deck. And then if you couldn't, you choose a unit card from, so a trigger card from your ride deck and reveal it, activate all of its effects, banish it, and then stand all of your rear guards. So honestly, this is probably gonna get some tops. The things written on this card are pretty crazy, and just for that I think it is legit. Just for the things that are written on it, it's pretty legit, and so I wouldn't be surprised. And plus the token is like, this says, it's like what, you search for a trigger unit from your deck and put it to your ride deck, and at the beginning of your main phase, and then if you did, you choose a Hydra Room from your drop zone and call it to rear, right? So that immediately makes sure that you can keep firing that skill every single turn. And on top of that, once per turn, you also get to ditch a Grifogira from your hand to draw a card, and then you choose one of your rear circles and put a Dragon Tree marker on it, and then you can basically take a damage, put a card from your deck to your damage zone, to also get rid of a Calamity card. So you power up and speed up the deck a lot, and I feel like this deck has a lot of potential to just like get tops. I think it's hard to really put a number on it because we don't know which nation is going to be the best in, which nation makes best use of this, but the grade 4 deck got faster, and I feel like everyone, not really, a lot of people have been talking about it. Everyone's talking about the big 3 and stuff like that. So I feel like there is a chance for this to really pop off soon, so I would keep my eye on it. I think rating wise, just for those 2 cards alone, I almost want to give them a 4 to 5. Like for the nationless stuff in this set, it feels already quite good. But let's get over the, nations themselves. And Dragon Empire, boy oh boy, Dragon Empire, they saved the best for last. Streverina, Insanity. This is a Yu-Gi-Oh card. If you don't believe me, tell me the difference between this and this. I don't see any. This is a Yu-Gi-Oh card. All of Jiva is just a Yu-Gi-Oh engine thanks to Abaragia and Dorahas. These 2 cards, literally a Yu-Gi-Oh engine. It's Black Wings. It's just Black Wings. Like, they've made Crossover Dress finally good. They've made Jiva finally good. It feels very satisfying to play because there's so many little things to do. We'll talk about it in more depth in the future, but Jiva alone is just, it's awesome. Circular is full broken, Verena stuff has costs. This thing barely has a cost, honestly. The ditch one is the only cost, but this thing draws you cards, calls you cards from deck search, gives resist. The things it targets are insane too. It's like, it's nuts. This thing I think will also be pretty decent in like Shironi maybe. It's grade 4 support, Cycler. We got stealth support. We got Dragon Tree Searchers. We got this, and it's another Yu-Gi-Oh card. This thing, like, she's not only cute, but also potentially supports Shironi in the future, which is very nice. We have Battle Door, effect on some of these Prayer Dragons, which is really cool. And you can play just one of Prayer Dragons because he searches all of them, right? So you can play one of this and stuff like that. I think the new Blitz orders are kind of okay, the anti-Youthberg Blitz orders. I think the other stuff that stuck out to me was like The other Prayer Dragon is like not too bad. It makes your Stravarina hit for 28 or and more, which is pretty good. And they like added this like random defensive card too. But overall, Dragon Empire, they cooked. They saved, like, until this week, this would have been a 0 out of 5. Like, there was no hope. But I want to say it's a 5 out of 5. Like, everything that's supported is good. They like threw in some random other archetype support in here too. And overall, I think everything in Dragon Empire is just amazing. And they saved Jiva so hard. I feel like it's disrespectful to not give this a 5 out of 5. However, we move on to Dark States, and calling Dark States a 5 out of 5 feels almost insulting. Dredjeweled is the most cracked card in this set, I think, potentially. Being a card that is a great 4, so triple drives. It gives plus 15k power to your front row. It gives you 2 soul every turn. It also makes sure, you know, gets a crit, wipes out your opponent's back row, sets your opponent's front row to 0. This card is like, and it's self-sufficient at everything it's doing. It's crazy how much this does. This one card is insane, and then the Cycler supports it too because it's a grade 4. So the Cycler draws you a card and puts 2 cards from drop to soul. That fuels Dredjeweled even more. And it's also a defensive card if you want it as a defensive too. Like, the Dredjeweled support in the set is insane. This card is a free recycling card. It calls out cards from soul, not with a cost, but by also soul charging if you need some extra soul. Which is crazy. You don't have Impusa, just play this grade 1, which is like an Impusa and also, you know, a draw card and a soul provider. Like, this does so much. There's a Jewel Searcher. They're pushing the Jewels so hard this set. Too bad I don't really like playing their Jewels. So for me, it's more of like, you know, this will be like $1,000 deck that I'm just like, goodbye. This, like, the price of these decks is going to be a different talking point, but Dredjeweled alone already carries Dark States. But some of the Astroa Unica stuff is pretty nice. Like, she's good. She's an actual plus card. CP1 to call something is pretty good. It's also 20k attacker. They threw in some nice greed on support here and there too. The generics are okay, I would say. Not necessarily something crazy. There's this little cool like 2-card package with this like the demon and the bat that call each other and stuff and like coincide with each other. So I think overall like Dark States is so carried by Dredjeweled here, but also includes support that's like pretty decent for the other archetypes. I want to break past a 5 out of 5 and just give it 6 out of 5. Like, this is ridiculous. The new Desire Devil lets you get 5 attacks. Yeah, this thing is also very good too. Dark State just feels like a 6 out of 5. I think it's so insane how much Dredjeweled does and the pieces surrounding it. You have a grade 2 that boosts and calls stuff. Impusa replacement. Deck, like, search for the grade 4, and if don't search then draw card, like, bro. Bro, there is so much stuff in this, and it still doesn't end there. Like, it's kind of crazy. It's crazy. I want to give a 6 out of 5 to Dark States. I'm that impressed. Blanket, on the other hand, is the opposite of impressed, because the Cycler is kind of mid. Vanguard, I personally think is okay, but 3 Vanguard attacks is good. It comes at a cost, but it is pretty good. This, you know, you have to discard to get all those drives, which other decks don't. So that's kind of the downside. I think, yeah, it's not underwhelming, it's whelming. I think Richter is a good card. And the Welcher support is not so good, but Heroes, baby, are looking insane this set. If you want to play a Brancate deck, Orphist, Heroes, looking great. Ava, of course, post-restriction might be okay, we'll test as well. She's insane. She can give you more than 5 attacks. She lets you make sure you always have at least 3 of the bases in your order zone. Insane. Simply crazy. Like, you deck thin so much, some people said like by turn 4 you're just triggers and PGs in deck. Like, it's ridiculous how much deck thinning and plussing this deck is going to be doing, together with the hero promo that came out as a shop term promo. I think right now in English, it's coming out in October. It's insane. And her art is a banger. This is like the same artist as Ramiel Reverse. Like, we were actually looking up this artist earlier, and they've drawn like so many of the good Vanguard arts. It's pretty ridiculous. They drew like the PBO promo as well, like the really beautiful one. Heroes have cooked. Heroes have waited, just like Jiva. Heroes and Jiva were both introduced in set 6 and were both horrible, and set 13 saved them both. It's crazy how good this card is. And then we got some other random support, like a way to, like a kaiju that gets back your orders from damage. Could be good. This hero rare is insane too. That's like an infinite recycling draw card that lets you reuse your bases on your opponent's turn, which is pretty nice. More Vanguard to support as well, pretty cool. Some banger art, like, good god. Some of these generics just look insane. There's a bit more Wells for support here and there. This like not once per turn plus 10k gainer every time you operate something. Could get pretty swole, so could be alright. But overall, Brankgate feels a bit lacking compared to the other nations. So I think, you know, as good as Vanguard and Heroes are, the generic and like the Wells for support is a little bit questionable. So I feel like it's right to give it a 3 to 5. 3 to 5. It's average. It's average. It lacks a little bit of extra. A Seraph maybe. So I think Brand gets a 3 out of 5. It's somewhere up there. Keter Sanctuary though is interesting because essentially all of Keter Sanctuary up until the Youthberg reveal was just Alden. Like, this Grade 3 Cycler is okay. Won't really be that good in Luard, I think, but all the Alden ride line stuff was pretty good. It's looking like a pretty cool deck you can just build from this set. So like almost everything for Keter is Alden support, and the deck is fun. Like, it pluses, it multi-attacks, it has extra power, kind of everything you would want in like an average Vanguard deck, right? So it's pretty good. It even has like counter chargers and whatnot too. But then they brought out the Youthberg stuff, and that's where things changed. Youthberg itself is okay. Like, it's a great card, but we were like, there's no engine to support it. I don't want to play Drilling Angel, you know? And that was just kind of it. But Fergosa and Corurino are two insane double rares that, in my opinion, are just immediately carried Youthberg to the top. It's still going to be a bit piece reliant and a bit hard to deck build. You damage one of your like Zests or whatever, and it's pretty sad, but these two cards have really pushed Keter super far. I wouldn't say they do as much as the Jiva supports do. Like, the Jiva supports are insane to a crazy level, whereas these two are like also very good, but they only funnel this deck and that's it. Whereas the Jiva supports do more than just that, I would say. So I want to give Keter's like close to a 5 out of 5. I think Youthberg stuff is really good. Alden is like a pretty decent deck too. I haven't tested it to tell you if it's actually good or not, but from everything that's written, it feels like it's good. So it's between like a 4 out of 5 and a 5 out of 5. And I think, you know, the Youthberg community, we've had some disagreements, but I do agree that Youthberg is amazing now. But I think for Keter, like the Cycler being a bit mid and Alden being a bit of a question mark, like Alden was a 3.5, Youthberg is a 5 out of 5. Yeah, so I think we average out at like a 4, 4.5. I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5. I think we're missing just a little bit. I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5. We're very close, but Youthberg makes it very close to a 5 though. So Ikea, however, has a very nice Cycler that gets back stuff from your drop. We don't have a Stride deck set in Stoichea yet, but once we get Night Rose eventually, this will be very good. Leonorn is insane. Leonorn is a crazy card that we've talked about a lot on this channel already. This is a Foolish Burial that gets plus 10k power and everything for no cost, for no reason. Insane generic. 25k beater that just kind of like fuels itself, which is pretty good. Countercharge that draws and silver places for Leonorn. This card's mid, but this order is really good for like any order-based deck like Zorga, or just decks that want to play orders as well, being like, you know, basically graveyard revival while milling stuff. And then like some of the other cards, the generics are not as great. They're okay, but there's some really good art in here. So Stoichea for me is like, again, carried by Leonorn, and the Zorga support's very good. The generics are really good too. So I feel like it's also like there's a bit of a couple questionable cards in here, whereas I feel like for it's kind of similar, where like the Cycler this time is really good, whereas for Keter the Cycler was mid. So I feel like it's also kind of on that, like, I don't know if it's 4.5, because with Youthberg there were doubts. Leonorn, it's been all gas from the beginning. The only downside is that instead of Leonorn having her good supports in the set, they're all promos. Like, why, like, just make these random cards that are just random double rares promos instead. Like, come on. So I think Stoichea probably is like, yeah, it's like 4.5. I'm willing to give it a 4. I think it's like, there's a lot of like random stuff in here, but it's a bit less insane cards that I would like to see. So we're gonna settle for 4 to 5 for Stoichea here. And finally, Bang Dream. So we do know that the Bushiroad collabs do come out in English. So I'll give my thoughts on these two as well. I just finished reading through them. I already knew what Morphonica did from a stream previously, but sadly Mygo got revealed while I was on holiday, so I didn't actually know what they did. Morphonica's pretty cool. It's kind of youth-burgy while like redirecting attacks and stuff. It's a bit more well-rounded, long-term focused in my opinion, and I think it's going to be a pretty good deck to just like get into things with. Gives you extra power as like little guard restricts and stuff, resist and whatnot. So I think overall, like, Morphonica's pretty good if you want to just get into Vanguard and like with a collab deck. Really nice start. Like, you know, overall strong rears. You have quite a bit of plussing. It's pretty strong. Mygo though, Mygo's pretty crazy. It's a very aggro deck. It's super aggressive. It does like 5 attacks. You get like, you have this card. Where is it? This one. She's like Bout of Arena and God of Arena in one card. She is like, she performs drive checks, and there's like a different card that like gives her Battle Door effect. So it's like, hello? I feel like this is like, if you like aggro decks and like fast aggro decks, then you will really enjoy playing Mygo. It's fast, it's aggressive, lots of attacks, and I feel like just on its own, Mygo is going to be very good. And Morphonic I think is also very good. Like they're both really good decks, but Mygo I feel like does top it just a little bit. So if I had to rate this as its own nation, I'll give it a 5 out of 5 too. They don't have effect triggers? They do. They do. These are all effect triggers. So this front says it can be played 8 of in a deck, but this is a normal effect crit, this is a normal effect draw, this is a normal effect front, and then these, the generic crits can be played, and generic fronts and generic draws can be played 8 of in a deck. So that's that. So I think more like both Morphonica and Mygo are very good. I'm giving them a 5 out of 5. I think these are like very, very good entry decks, super cheap to build usually as well. They've been doing this every set. These collab decks I think are very healthy for the game because they're cheap, they're easy to build, they build themselves kind of like, you know, the Gotobun decks were like 3 to 5 of them were really good. Yotsuba ended up getting some tops too, and I feel like these two will as well. I think these two will as well. And like I kind of hope they keep them up. I honestly want to see more. So we'll see what they do next year when with the next set in February. So this is our last main set until February, which is, you know, not gonna be any for a while. Will it be cheap though? Yeah, I think they should be. Normally they are. So overall, this is a huge set. It's gonna be very meta changing. I will do a separate video talking about the speed and aggression after playtesting. So these are just my first impressions, right? I hope I'm completely wrong about Vanguarda. I hope it's much better than initially expected. I wouldn't mind Drejeweled becoming a little bit less hot, but I feel like with everything that's written on these cards, it's gonna be pretty insane. Jeeve, I've already been doing like goldfish testing and I'm super impressed with it. And then Bren, I'll give some testing. Youthberg as well, I play Youthberg too. Drejeweled I will not play though. I'm selling all my Drejeweled pieces because I don't really enjoy the deck. So hopefully somebody in my friend group does because it's pretty insane looking. And I would be playing Leonorn, but I'm still waiting for my promos to come in, so look forward to that. But yeah, pretty insane set. Overall, pretty insane set. I think there's a lot more to unpack. If I wasn't trying to fit this all into like a short 20-minute video, I could talk about the set for like an hour and really go into depth on each card, but there's a quick first impressions. I'll give more in-depth thoughts as we break down decks over time. I'll be doing a lot of like physical IRL playtesting with my friends on stream next week, so if you want to see these decks in action, you want to tune into my Twitch, check it out. We get sponsored by some cool games sometimes, like, you know, Marvel Snap. You can download it with my download link to support the channel, which is pretty cool. But overall, this set's a huge game changer, and I'm very excited to see where things are gonna go with a little bit of precaution. You know, there's like I'm hesitantly optimistic, you know, where things will be fast and strong, and you know, yeah. What do I not like about Drejeweled? Not a big fan of the playstyle, and also not a big fan of the fact that I'm currently holding on to a bunch of Drejeweled staples that are worth like $300, and I'd rather have $300 than I'd have a Drejeweled deck. So easy as that. But anyway, thank you so much everyone for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below about this set and your first impressions as well. You can leave essay comments. I embrace them. You know, if you want to break down your thoughts on every single nation, give your ratings and all that kind of stuff, it's all cool to me. I'll try to engage with you guys in the comments as well. But otherwise, if you like the video, give it a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you want to get some bonus content, become a YouTube channel member and get access to, of course, the special sections in our Discord too. But otherwise, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.